Alright guys, in this video we're going to be creating a database schema for an e-commerce application. So the requirements for that is going to be the application should allow you to add a product, the application should allow you to add a seller. Okay, so we have to think about this because these requirements are for a Spring Boot application. We're only going to create a database in this video because we're going to create a Spring Boot in a separate video. So for the database, so you can already see that we're going to need a product table because it says you're going to have to add and move products, and a seller. Okay, so we're going to use a users table instead of a seller. So we're going to create one users table where we could add a boolean for seller or buyer, and then there's going to be a review table because you have to add a review on a product, and then there is going to be an orders table because there's order information here as well. So before we create an SQL yoke, we're gonna create in Paint. Okay, so we're gonna have a couple of boxes. So we're gonna have 5 tables actually. Okay, we're not gonna have 5 for now. We're only gonna have 4 tables for now. Okay, so we come here, and then we have products. And if we go down, product is going to have an ID, because every table needs an ID, which is going to be the primary key constraint, because that's what's going to help us identify the product. That's going to help us get product information in the Spring Boot application. Product going to have a name. It's going to have a description. It's going to have a user who's selling the product, because someone's gonna sell the product, right? So it's gonna have user ID to get that stuff, and then over here we're gonna have an ID. Okay, let's just name it first. Users table, ID, name, and then we're gonna have one more thing, seller. This is either gonna be a boolean. It's either gonna be true or false, because if that user is a seller, then your application should know that this user is selling stuff, because there could be third-party sellers. Okay, so we have the reviews table. Okay, and we forgot to add one thing over here, by the way. A user's reviews, because you can have reviews in your thing. So this is actually going to be review ID, because every product is going to have a review, and that review is going to come from here, from reviews. So for this that we created here, we'll come down, and then we're gonna have a review ID, and then a review itself, and then we're gonna have, okay, that should be just the review table. And actually we're also gonna have user ID here for which user made the review. And then last table is gonna be order. I'm not gonna design the order table here, because when we're creating, I have to show you guys something. So the order table is gonna be a little bit complicated. So we're gonna create a database called e-commerce. E-commerce. And here we're gonna create, and the client that I'm using is SQL Yoga, and the database we're gonna use is MySQL. So you should need to have that downloaded, because the first table we're gonna actually need is the users. First column is gonna be the user ID. Data type's gonna be in, because we want it to be a number, and we're gonna make it a primary key constraint, which means it can't be null. It has to be unique, and yeah, so like that. So not null. I'm gonna put it on auto increment. I'm gonna put user name. We're also gonna have a seller column, which is going to be a boolean. Come here in the B section. Here it is boolean. The length that we're gonna put in is gonna be Actually, you don't need to have length for that, but yeah. Let's make this varchar. That's going to be string type, which means alphabetical. So length is for this username is going to be 20. And then we want the username to not be null. So we'll click not null. And then we can go ahead and save this table. We're going to create more tables. Okay, and then the next table is going to be product. So for product here, we're gonna, what is it called? Okay, so product's actually gonna have a product ID. It's gonna have a product name. It's gonna have a product description. It's also gonna have a product amount, price, which we didn't put on the paint E diagram, but you can put it here. It's gonna have price, and it's gonna have a user ID. It's also gonna have review ID. Review ID. Okay, let's find the data types for each of this. That's gonna be primary key, auto increment. Product name is gonna be varchar. Length 20. Price gonna be double because something could be in cents as well. So user ID, it's gonna be int because we defined it int over there. I'm gonna make this int. Okay, then constraints gonna be FK, which stands for foreign key. You can name it whatever you want, but I like to name mine like this. User and the ID. And the column we're referencing is the user ID column, of course. Boom, we have one. And we actually need to do the reviews as well, so let's go ahead and create the reviews table. Review. Review ID. Int. PK. And it's going to be a review itself. And then that's actually going to be review. It's gonna be varchar. I'm gonna make this 100 because the review could be big. And then I think that's it for the actually user ID. Go to the user who made the review. Okay, let's go to foreign key constraints. FK underscore user2 underscore ID because we already made one user ID constraint. Okay. Not right now. We still have more tables to create, but right now, let's go finish out the product table. In here is review ID, which is so now if we go ahead underscore not user anymore. Review underscore ID. Can define a foreign key for this constraint as well. Okay. Now we have one more table to create still, which is going to be the orders table, which actually isn't the only table we have to create. Orders table. Okay, and for the orders table, it's only going to contain the order ID and the user ID. User ID. And then, okay, let's just make this int real quick. Why? Okay, we might have an issue here. Okay, never mind. I didn't mess up. The user ID is also going to be int. Let's make it a foreign key. Okay, underscore user 3 underscore ID. Okay, so it is orders table, but we're going to create a child table called order info. order details actually, and that's going to be the child table, because there could be multiple orders for the same product, so we don't want things to be repeating. So for that reason, you're going to create a child table, which is going to use the order ID for order. It's also going to take product ID, so which basically is going to have order ID, which is going to be foreign key, of course, and this table is actually going to have its own ID, and auto increment, and it's going to have a product ID, which is going to see which product. So it's only going to contain foreign keys. Well, we don't have to do that. Okay, and then we can define both of them as foreign keys, so let's take that off this as well, because they're both just foreign keys. So fk underscore order ID, order underscore ID, referencing column, order ID, orders, and then one more. Oh my god, my type is so off. Hello? Underscore product. Okay, we have all the tables that we needed created. Now let's go fill some data in them. Okay, so the first table that we're gonna put, okay, first of all, let's just see what we've created. Okay, so we created a users table which contains a user ID, which we pass to other tables to get the user information. And you can also see that user ID is the primary key here. We have username and seller, which are not primary keys or anything. So we have in the reviews table, we have a review ID, review art thing. Then we have user ID, which is a foreign key, and the review ID is primary key, which means that user ID is going to come from here, and then that way in our Spring Boot application, it's going to help us get all the information from the users table and then pass it to the reviews table. And the same thing is happening for the product table. It also has two foreign keys, the review information and the user information, and it has its own primary key, product ID. The orders table has the same thing, but order details table is actually a helping table and a child table to orders, because we don't want orders to be duplicating for the same ID. So orders table has an ID of an order, and then its details are in the order details table. So what products are gonna go in the order ID for that order ID? The order details table is gonna have duplicating records. So the orders detail is going to be a messy table, but orders is going to be a good table without any duplicating records. So that's why we created this, because we didn't want orders to be duplicating and messy. So okay, so let's go and fill some information in all this. Okay, so first one we're gonna fill out is users. Open up. User ID is obviously gonna be auto, which just happened. Okay, username is going to be J, which is my name. Seller, it's gonna be false because I'm not selling anything. Let's save this. What happened? Why is it false, not working? Hello? I think this works like with 1, 2, and that. Yeah. So I think 1 is true and 2 is false. That's how it works. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So 2 is like, okay, just to prove that, if I do 3, well, I think we have a problem here. Okay, so why is this not working? Why does it make it tiny int? It's not tiny int. Okay, so this actually has this issue. Okay, now if I save it, it's boolean. But done. Now if I come here and make it false, will it still hurt me? Yeah, so it actually not gonna work like that. So for now, for the simplicity, let's just make it a varchar and give it a length of 20, and then you could just put in false. Doesn't really matter. So now we can just put in false and save this. It has a user ID of 1, so now let's go to reviews. Actually, now we have to fill out the products. Product name, what's the product name? Product name is gonna be toy. Description, made of plastic. Price is gonna be 30.5. We made it double, so that's not gonna annoy us. User ID, let's put in 2, just to see that it's gonna throw us an error, because these two user IDs aren't even defined yet. And now if I put user ID 1, it's not gonna error, but we can't save that yet. Okay, actually, I'll just make this null for now and hit save. Okay, so we're actually not, we can't actually fill that out right now. Let's put the user ID 1 because we haven't put anything in the user, so there is no user review ID. Very good toy for now. Now if I save that, we have an ID of 1. So now if I go to products and then make a product name, toy made of plastic, product price 30.5, user ID 1, review ID 1. This should successfully let us save because now there's an ID in those two tables. And now for the orders. Order is actually nothing but auto increments. So just put in 1. Done. Now order details table is going to be 1, 1, and this, okay. Foreign key constraint fails. Okay, that's weird. If we open the orders table, what did we do here? Okay, give me 1 second. Let me try and fix this. Give me 1 second. Wait, I think we didn't make order ID. So if you open the order table, I don't think we made it. Okay, now. Orders, order is primary key, then why is it not working? Let's try that one more time. Is order stored? Let's open the orders table up real quick. One, yes, it's 1, alright, it's 1. Got that at 1. Order details is gonna be 1. Is product? Oh, product ID I put in as 3. That explains it. Okay. Order details. Boom, and then boom. Yep, there we go. Okay. Okay, so now we have actually created the database for that e-commerce application. So, okay, so let's recap on what we did. We talked about foreign key and primary key constraints. We used nullable, auto increment. We used MySQL database. We used SQL Yolk as our client. We created a database schema for an e-commerce application. We saw how to use a helping table and a child table to not mess up your main table. So that's about it. So if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below for some feedback. Thank you so much for